Hello, everybody. I've been really looking forward to doing this live. If you have been following what's been happening here on my very new YouTube channel, you know that we have been doing a 5-part strategy on carbohydrates and specifically carbohydrate optimization, because there's a lot of mixed messages out there around carbohydrates, and that was clear even in the comments that I got to this 5-part series. And the truth of the matter is, we have to be able to think critically about all things, especially things around health and nutrition. And I think what happens a lot of times is that we don't think for ourselves and we just want somebody to tell us what to do. And the problem with that, especially in the area of health and nutrition. Hey, Melissa, so glad to see you in here. The problem with that in health and nutrition is that it's very individual, and it depends on our goals. It depends on our baseline or our starting point, kind of where we're at right now. It depends on if we're wanting to lose weight or build muscle or both. It depends on if we have other health challenges, and it depends on the subjective feedback we get from our bodies. Like, there was a time when I did really well on a high fat, moderate protein diet. And now my body tells me that I do better, higher protein, more moderate fat. And so we have to be very individualized. And I want to be a voice where not only you can ask questions to help you do that personalization, because a lot of people aren't even sure, like, what am I looking for? And how do I figure this out for myself? But I want to cut through the it's this way or it's that way perspectives out there. In fact, when I was doing this carb strategy series, one of the 5 days, and you can see all 5 of the segments in the link that I put in the description, somebody said in response to the video that I did on carb timing, they were like, oh yeah, the best time to eat carbs? Never. And no shade. Like, if you are somebody who is a lifelong keto or lifelong carnivore, that's fine. That's great. But I am not a fan of suggesting everybody should do this. It's this way for everybody. This is healthy or optimal for everybody, because it's not, right? It's absolutely not. And if we aren't careful, because we are inundated by emails and social media posts and podcasts and news coverage, we'll just believe the loudest voice. And that's a big problem when the stakes are as high as they are around our health and our fitness and our mental health. So we spent 5 days going through specific carbohydrate strategies that can help you optimize your metabolism. And that can support energy, that can support fat burning, that can support so many different things: energy, mental health, cravings, hunger, satiety, all those different things. What I wanted to do today going live is just answer any questions that you have. A lot of you guys sent me questions either on Instagram DMs or via email, so I've got those questions. But if you were one of the few people on here live, drop your questions in. That is what I am here for, and I really want to answer your questions. While I give you guys a couple minutes to drop any questions you have in the chat, and if you catch this later, drop one in the comments. I'm paying attention to the comments, so it's never too late to put a question out there. I wanted to make sure that you know about 2 nights of totally free live trainings I'm doing next week. Tuesday, April 8th, Wednesday, April 9th. I am going live 2 nights in a row with 2 different trainings, and here's why. I was in the same struggle with food for decades. And it's not that it took me decades to figure it out. It's that I spent decades not solving the real problems and just chasing quick fixes and trying to rely on discipline and willpower over and over and over. And so I've spent the last probably 3 months putting together 2 nights of trainings where I want to help you get to the root and really change at a foundational level instead of continuing to chase what everybody else is talking about or some quick fix or something that you think is going to give you results really fast. I don't want anyone going another year, even another 6 months, feeling like they're just in the same cycle of on again, off again. So in the description for this video, you are going to find the link to register for this training. It's totally free, 2 nights, 2 different trainings on back-to-back nights. You register once and you're automatically registered for both nights. Don't miss it. It's not going to be here on YouTube. It's not going to be on the podcast. You have to register to be able to access these 2 nights of trainings. I really want you to be there. So check the link in the description and go ahead and get yourself signed up for that. If you've got questions about it, let me know. I'm going to dive into the questions about this 5-part carb series. Again, if you missed any of the days, that link is also in the description. And then if you're on here live, please feel free to drop your questions in the chat. I am keeping one eye on the chat, so let's get into it. On one of the 5 videos, we talked about sunlight. And I'm not going to recap all of that, but definitely check out that video because the impact is not small. It is very significant in terms of your carbohydrate metabolism, carbohydrate sensitivity, insulin responsiveness. And somebody said, can I get the same benefits from one of those light boxes or from a vitamin D supplement as opposed to going out in the sun? Maybe you're in a cloudy area, maybe you're a shift worker. Can you get the same benefit that you can get from morning light by one of those light boxes or a vitamin D supplement? Vitamin D supplement, no, it is not the same, but it is better than nothing. Taking a vitamin D supplement, if you're not getting regular natural light, is a step in the direction, but it is in no way a substitute for actual light exposure. And here's why. Vitamin D activation from sunlight is only one benefit, right? When you don't get natural light and you just take a vitamin D supplement, you're missing out on the benefits to circadian rhythm, cortisol regulation, cortisol being one of our stress hormones, the mood benefits, and the glucose metabolism impact that we get from natural light. So definitely take a vitamin D supplement if you're not getting routine exposure to natural light, but do not think for 1 second that it's the same thing, because it's not. Now let's talk about what this person called those light boxes. I have a red light, handheld red light, and I love it. I love it. But it is red light and near infrared light. That is not the same thing as sunlight, because sunlight is unique in that it contains a full spectrum of wavelengths. We're talking UVA, UVB. It also has red light, blue light, infrared light, and each one of those different types of light has a different impact on your cellular biology, okay? So when we talk about like a red light, you're not getting UVA, you're not getting UVB, you're not getting blue light, all of those things. You're just getting red and maybe near infrared sometimes. Now, other light therapy boxes are just like bright white light, and those ones are more for circadian rhythm and mood, but you're not getting the red and the near infrared that are really good for healing and inflammation and cellular health. So kind of like vitamin D, it's better than nothing at all, but it is not a replacement for that. I use my red near infrared light every freaking day, but in no way does it give me the same holistic benefit of sunlight. And if you're just joining, I'm going through your questions from the 5 days of carbohydrate strategies that we did as a video series here on YouTube. I've put the link to the playlist for all 5 of those videos, so you can check that out. I've also put the link for 2 nights of totally free training I'm doing next week. You don't want to miss it. I promise you, I've been working on this for months. I don't think I've been more excited about something in my business in a very, very, very long time. So it's free. Click the link, register. I promise you don't want to miss it. Okay, the next question. I love this question. This question is what I'm really looking forward to talking about. What's more important, the type of carbohydrate you consume or the timing of your consumption? So what's more important, like not having refined carbohydrates and focusing on whole foods over processed foods, or the timing of when we eat it? I love the question, but I'm going to go with neither. If I were to say this is what is most important when we're talking carbohydrate consumption, I'm going to go with quantity. I think that quantity matters more than the type, or we could say quality, and also the timing. And here's why. You could be eating the healthiest carbs or timing them perfectly, but if you are giving your body more than it needs, like kind of doesn't matter, because no matter what, if you don't have the short-term storage in your muscle or your liver and you're not actively using it, like going out for a jog right afterwards or getting in a workout right afterwards, it's going to be converted to and stored as fat. So I would say quantity matters more than type and timing. They all matter. But I think a lot of people, what happens is they'll do something like a Whole30 and then they overeat like crazy. And they're like, but I've been so healthy. Yeah, but healthy isn't the same as fat loss. right? It's just not, they're totally different things. Healthy is wonderful and valuable, but it's not a replacement for that. So we need to make sure, and quantity is not just this like, this is the amount of ideal quantity. Quantity is a function of the whole entire picture of your day, not like at one sitting, right? Because we can't be like, well, it's never more than a quarter of a cup, because what you had for breakfast is relevant when we're making decisions about lunch and when we're making decisions about dinner or when we're making decisions about snacking. So the whole picture of the day matters. And also your activity level and your body composition matters. There's this one influencer online. I really like her. I think she's great. But one of the red flags I have with some of her content is she talks about a lot about how carbs are awesome and carbs are important and like, whatever, that's cool. I don't have any issue with that. The problem is she shares that she eats objectively a lot of carbs, just not as really a relative function, but just like pretty much across the board. She's getting 300 plus grams of carbohydrate a day, but she's extremely lean and muscular and very, very, very active. So when we talk about quantity of carbohydrates, your body composition really matters, because the more muscle you have, the more carbohydrate you can facilitate, and the more active you are, the more that you can tolerate without it being converted to and stored as fat. So quantity, I would say, is number one. Now, I mentioned that somebody in the comments on YouTube said something along the lines of, what's the best time for carbs? Never is the best time for carbs. And I put, you probably see my comment in there, like, I think that's great for you. You're not going to see me put up a fight if you say I'll never have a gram of carb ever. But for me, I love vegetables. So vegetables are carbs. And maybe this person would say, well, I meant like non-starchy carbs. So I still eat vegetables, or maybe I even still eat fruit. Well, let's be honest about the fact that those are carbs. And I think painting with this broad brush can be really misleading for a lot of people. But at the same point, I love vegetables and I eat a lot of vegetables. I have not a lot of fruit, but I have fruit probably weekly. And I really enjoy sweet potatoes and the occasional bowl of popcorn. So I'm not looking from a health perspective or a lifestyle perspective to be this like zero carb, keto, or carnivore girl. I have done stints of both because I think it's great to kind of experiment and see where you feel your best. And it's always changing. So who knows where I'll be at 5 years from now. But my spidey senses are on high alert when somebody's like, nobody should ever have carbs. They have no role. If you want to be healthy, you need to avoid them or minimize them. Everybody's really, really different. And I did a live a few weeks ago now where I was talking about a GI map test that I did, which is basically a stool analysis where you poop in a cup, basically, and you put a little bit of your poop in a vial, and then they go and they evaluate the bacteria and the parasites and different viruses and things like that in your stool. And one of the things that it showed me is that I'm really great at metabolizing fat, and I'm not as great right now because that's a moment in time, right? That's not who I am forever and who I'll be in 5 years or who I was 6 months ago. But right now, the bacteria in my gut are not optimal for carbohydrate metabolism. So that does mean that I actually do better and feel better on a lower carbohydrate diet right now and a more moderate fat, higher protein diet, but that might not be the case. And it certainly isn't the case for somebody else. So we have to have this sense of individuality. And if we don't, then we're not really thinking. And I mentioned this on a past live. I think it's near epidemic, the way that we have outsourced thinking. It's not even thinking. It's just searching for somebody else's opinion that validates what we already thought, as opposed to really leaning into the need to think critically for yourself and your health. Okay, the next question was around walking. Again, I linked in the description the 5 videos with the 5 strategies, but one of them was around how a 10-minute walk after a meal is basically as effective for glucose responsiveness and insulin sensitivity as the diabetes drug metformin. It is dramatic in its effect. And somebody said, hey, I can't really walk very well. Health-related challenges, would biking be an okay substitute? Hell yeah, absolutely. And I think I said this in the video, dance around your kitchen, vacuum, put away the dishes, or even if it has to be a seated activity, the point is intentional movement. You could be on one of those hand bikes, right? I know a lot of people who use the hand bikes where instead of using your feet on pedals, you're using your hands on essentially what functions as a pedal. Any kind of movement, body weight squats, push-ups, walking, dancing, lunging, vacuuming, biking, anything, instead of just sitting around and moving later, is going to have a very positive impact on carbohydrate clearance after a meal. So great question. Okay, this next one, I love these types of questions. How quickly can I expect to see a benefit from morning sunlight exposure? Don't we want to know that? Like, am I going to feel it? Or is this just one of those things I'm making time for and I'm not going to really feel anything, or it's going to take years for me to feel anything? This is, again, a nuanced answer, because let's say you're somebody who works outdoors, right? You work outdoors, but maybe you haven't prioritized getting out early in the day for sunlight. You might not feel a benefit as quickly as somebody who works indoors and gets very little natural light. And so this is actually a big shift for you. That is a factor. But also, here's what I think often gets overlooked. There's going to be very little that you will notice a benefit from if your diet is garbage, your stress is out of control, or you're totally exhausted. So let's say that you're eating sort of standard American diet, lots of processed foods, overeating, and then you start getting 5 minutes of sunlight in the morning. You're probably not going to notice that much, right? Because just like you can't out-exercise a poor diet, you can't out-sunshine a diet or out-walk a terrible diet. Like, if you're going to see a benefit more if you have things like stress or sleep or food, at least mostly dialed in, right? If there's one area of your life that is totally trashed, it's going to be hard to see an improvement until you start to dial that in even a little bit, okay? But there's lots of different factors here. Like, is natural light something new to you? Are you dealing with some other serious issue that we need to get under control? And it's also a cumulative effect. So on average, you might start to notice that you're like a little bit perkier in the morning and you don't feel as groggy, or you don't feel as moody or as irritable. But weeks later, I think you'll notice a much more substantial effect. So stay with it, because it really is a cumulative impact. But when you feel it, depends on a lot of different factors. It does, in fact, compound over time. Okay, I think that those were the primary questions that I got ahead of time. For those of you that are on live, does anybody have any questions about these 5 things? Or maybe you only caught 4 of them and you've got some questions or something that I didn't talk about that you wished I had talked about. I'm happy to answer those questions. If you're catching this on the replay and not live, go ahead and let me know. I'll still see those comments and I'll absolutely respond to them. 2 links in the description that I want to make sure you know about while I wait to see if anybody on live has questions. Number 1, the link to the playlist with the 5 strategy videos, that is in the description. And the second thing that's in the description is the link to the 2 nights of totally free trainings I'm doing next week, Tuesday, April 8th, Wednesday, April 9th. These will not be on the podcast. They will not be on YouTube. You do have to register. Even if you want the replay, you have to register. And let me just tell you a little bit about what I'm doing and why I'm doing these trainings. Back when we were wrapping up 2024, I was doing some real deep thinking around, what do I want for my business and my time spent at work in 2025? And one of the big things was, I don't want to work with the same people year after year. And that might sound odd, but I'll tell you what I mean. I don't want anybody coming to me with the same problem in 2026 that they've come to me with in 2025. And I think that that becomes like almost our new normal. Like, I've struggled with food for years, or I've struggled with time management for years, or I've struggled with all or nothing thinking for years. It shouldn't be that way, because there's solutions for all of this. And so if it's been a struggle year after year after year, there's something off with our strategy. Even if there's something off with our implementation, that points to there's something off with our strategy. Because if we are not implementing, that's a strategy issue, right? So then my next question to myself was, what can I do to help people get to the point where, even if this has been a struggle for 5 years or 15 or 20 years, it's certainly closer to the 20-year mark for me, what do they need so that we can finally put this behind us? And that is what this training was born from. I do not want you to miss it, okay? So please click the link in the description. It's the webinar jam link, and make sure you are registered for that because it's not gonna show up in any other place. Melissa says in the chat, the cool thing about sunlight is that it can have a much quicker impact on your emotions than some of the other steps. I felt a big emotional and mental improvement long before the physical impact. Yeah, I'm the same way. I think the older I get, the more I feel like I'm part plant. And we really are. Like, the sun is not just this convenient thing that separates light and day. It really does have a tremendous impact on our mood, on our hormones, on our metabolism, on our energy. So don't sleep on that strategy. Okay, Caregiver Burnout Fix says, how do I stop overeating when it's a food I don't get very often? I just overate at work lunch because it was free food. I'm so frustrated. That's a great question. Here's what I would say. It is all a function of your perspective. If you tell yourself, well, I don't get this very often, so I need to eat it, you've just made a case for it, right? You've just made a case for it. That perspective is true, but it's not the whole truth. One of the points that I always like to clarify with my clients is that there's a point of diminishing returns with food. And what that means is, and this isn't just my opinion, this is very well documented, the point of diminishing returns means that, like, more is not more indefinitely. There's a point at which more is no longer more pleasure and more enjoyment, it's actually less. And if that's going to be a unique point for all of us based on the food, it might be different for you for ice cream than it is for pizza. But we have to start to pay attention to what is the difference between indulging and overindulging. Because if we were to kind of simplify this point of diminishing returns, indulging can feel good and overindulging does not feel good. Maybe physically it does not feel good, emotionally, psychologically it does not feel good, health-wise it does not feel good. But most of us haven't defined these lines, and we're not even paying attention to be able to define these lines. And then it's the story that we tell ourselves. If, again, the story is like, well, I don't get it very often and it's free, we're now talking ourselves into that behavior, and it's not untrue, but it's not the most helpful. I talk on the podcast about this story from the show Billions that was on years ago. I haven't watched TV since my kids were born, but basically this in-house psychiatrist says something along the lines of, hey, there's lots of different versions of the truth, but when you're working here, you mind the truth that makes you money. And I think we can adapt that in a powerful way. You know what? It's true that the food is free, but that is not the truth that honors your health. That is not the truth that is aligned with progress. That's the truth that's aligned with overeating. That's the truth that aligns with keeping you in a pattern that you don't want to be in. So what is the truth that is aligned with progress? And are you telling that story? I was going to record a reel later today. My son, I think I talked about this on a podcast that'll come out soon, but spoiler. My son has a Tony box. We won't go into what that is, but basically it like tells stories and plays music. And he has one that's Pout Pout Fish. And the Pout Pout Fish tells this story that's like, trouble 1, I'm not smart. Trouble 2, I'll never get it. Trouble 3, I don't belong. Trouble 4, I should forget it. Well, the other day, my son Roman, who's 3, he's playing with his Magnetiles and he's getting frustrated because Magnetiles are frustrating when you're 3. And he goes, trouble 1, I'm not smart. I'll never get it. I should forget it. With that story, of course, he's not going to keep going. Of course, he's going to be frustrated. And that, the 3-year-old, like, oh, what a horrible thing to say. But we do that to ourselves all the time. We're telling these stories that make us feel bad or choose poorly. And then we're like, gosh, why am I choosing poorly? I don't know. Trouble 1, I'm not smart. Trouble 2, I'll never get it. We got to tell a different story. Okay, Maria has a question. Thanks for your question, Maria. She says, how do you not give in to carb cravings? When it's mealtime, that's all I want. I think there's a lot at play here. One of the big ones is we teach our palate, okay? So what we expose ourselves to most is what we desire. When I am overindulging, when I am drinking, eating ice cream, eating pasta, whatever, yeah, that's what I want because we teach our palate. Now, when I am consistent with eating whole foods and not having sugar and all those things, I don't want them. And so it's an exposure thing. We want what we give ourselves access to. So that piece of the story is significant. Hey, if I want to get over cravings, then I can't keep saying yes to it and then be endlessly frustrated. I did this. I created it. Now, the other piece of it is, what else is at play? Are you hungry? Are you getting enough protein? Are you getting enough fat? Are you getting enough nutrients? Are you getting enough B vitamins? Are you getting enough hydration? Are you getting enough rest? What other factors are at play? And then the third thing is perspective. What happens to a lot of people is they don't even realize that they are actively talking themselves into the choice they say they don't want to make. Oh, it's all I want. Oh, it'd be so good. Oh, I've been pretty good. This one thing won't hurt. I'll start tomorrow. It's too hard. Just like my 3-year-old being like, I'm not smart. I'll never get it. Imagine if I was like, yeah, too bad, huh? You're not smart. You'll never get it. You should forget it. Never. But we do that to ourselves all the time. And then we're kind of like surprised by our choices. We're going to be talking about this side of things, this sort of how we process, how we justify and make decisions, and the ways we hold ourselves back that we're not even aware that we're doing on these trainings that are going to be next week. So I want you to go to the link in the description. Do not miss these trainings. It's just 2 nights, Tuesday, April 8th, Wednesday, April 9th. I really want you to be there. Please feel free, if you're watching this later, to drop any questions that you have in the comments. I will absolutely answer them. And YouTube is very new to me, but I will be doing regular lives, even though we're moving away from this 5-part carb series. We'll be doing a lot more topics. So do not hesitate to ask any questions you have. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss anything. And I'll check back in with questions here soon. Thanks for being here. I'll see you guys soon.